Hello, this is my Crazy Ex channel. Please subscribe.
I cheated, again. Realizing that an open marriage is the best solution for us. How do I convince my spouse? 30s FM. Story 1-2. Required information. I'm 34F and my husband is 35 meters. We have been married for 10 years. We have 2 elementary school-aged sons. Background. We've been together since 1999 and are college sweethearts. Married for just over 10 years. I work long rotations for work consulting and I'm away from home about 40% of the year, so it's very stressful to our marriage. I do love my job though, and I wouldn't change anything. We have found a good compromise and it's worked for us. I've cheated in the past when we were dating, but we put it behind us and have really moved on from it, and in a lot of ways are strong for it. He does mention the cheating every once in a while, and I wouldn't say he has forgot. I've floated the idea of an open marriage to him in the past and he wasn't really receptive, but I wasn't trying to convince him either. The current issue. So I've been working 12 hours away from my family for the past 6 months, and once the holiday season passes, I will be back to that rotation and I'm going to be there until April. It's a really challenging operation and I love it, but it's been stressful to be away from them. It ends up working out to me being home for about 5 days a month, and those days are glorious, but the time in between is tough. One of the VPs at the company I am working for has had his eye on me for a while. We hit it off at work and there has been this fun charge between us, but I've tried to not let anything happen. Well, something happened about a month ago and we have been in an affair from until then. He has an open marriage himself. As bad as the guilt is, it's also been so exciting and thrilling. He is a great lover and we have really great chemistry there. To make things more complicated, I had an encounter with another man very recently too. This all has made me think about our marriage and monogamy. I've seen firsthand how prevalent cheating is, and I think it's an outdated model. It's near impossible, with even the best of intentions, to uphold. I am attracted to other men and my husband, I'm sure, is the same way. We shouldn't let societal pressure confine us. I love my husband, but the distance is so difficult on us. I think for us, an open marriage is the perfect solution. We have a great family and a great home and life we've built together. Our kids don't need to be shuttled around with 2 homes, 2 step-parents, and go through a divorce. That isn't fair to them. There is still passion with my husband and I, and we still love one another, and I don't think we need a divorce. An open marriage lets us both explore without losing the stability of one another. I am confident with myself and I would be fine, even supportive of him exploring too. I wouldn't be at all jealous and I would want him to have fun too. So this is not a hypocrisy issue. I am returning home on Friday and will be back for 4 weeks, and I would like to over the holidays bring up this and make my case to my husband. I'm just looking for some advice on how to make the case to him about why this is for us. I have my reasons, but I would love to have Reddit's advice and support. I have thought of some rules for us, such as nothing with any mutual friends and no falling in love, but I am open to more suggestions. Also, I feel awful about the cheating and I'm contemplating confessing to him about it all regardless. I will wait and see his reaction to the open marriage and go from there about that. TL. Doctor, I cheated on my husband while apart for work, and I think for us, an open marriage is the best possible solution. How do I convince my husband too? Redditors' reactions. Redditor 1, I cheated on my husband multiple times. How can I convince him this is not a bad thing? Redditor 2, an open marriage isn't good for us, it is good for only you. He is at home raising your kids while you are out screwing around. Redditor 3, an open marriage would require the kind of honesty that is definitely not present in cheating. Also, it is still possible to cheat in an open relationship. I think before you start trying to have that conversation, you work out for yourself why you have cheated. Not why you feel the desire to be with others, but why you cheated, rather than talking to your husband about an open relationship first. Redditor 4, duck you up. This is not why you have an open marriage. Just based on the fact that you ducked someone else without talking to your significant other first proves this beyond a doubt. Edit, I posted this in anger. I'm sorry, but my point still stands. Open relationships require more trust than a regular one. What you're basically asserting is that both you and your partner commit to stay at least mostly romantically monogamous, but are free to have time with people outside of your relationship. There are many reasons to start an open relationship, and not one of them is because you can't keep your DCK to yourself when the chips are down. In my case, I'm in an open relationship of sorts because we're both somewhere on the spectrum between bis-time-ool and pans-time-ool, and sometimes we can't quite itch the scratch. So we find play partners, both for ourselves and for each other. These pairings are always discussed in advance, before there is anything remotely like genital-to-genital contact. The reason is to maintain this trust, and so that we can approve or veto potential partners. The trust issue isn't just between the two of you. As soon as you add a third, a fourth, you have to both trust them also not to bring an STD into your bedroom. In short, open relationships, polyamory, anything along these lines require way more trust than people like OP are capable of. My best advice is for you to turn yourself into your significant other, plead for mercy, and hope in the future that you learn some self-control. And for duck's sake, stop making people in plural relationships look like shit. We have enough of an image problem without people like you. Redditor 5, stop trying to rationalize your shitty behavior. It's not fair to your husband that you're lying to him, betraying his trust, and sleeping with other men. Confessing and letting him decide what he wants to do is the only credible option, but seeing how self-centered you are, I doubt that will happen. Redditor 6, you don't convince your husband, you compromise and discuss. If he's not up for it, then you leave him and let him find someone that he deserves. Op answer, convince was the wrong word to use. I just feel really strongly that this is for us, and I want to just talk it out, and I want him to feel the same way. I won't and can't make him do anything. I just want to present this to him and try to have him understand. I was looking for help on how to do that. And some general relationship advice too. Redditor 7, I think you're incredibly selfish. You've convinced yourself that because cheating is so prevalent it's okay for you to do, and therefore that you should be in an open relationship. You've also convinced yourself that your husband is attracted to other women and wants to exercise this attraction, despite any mentioned evidence on his part, and only because you're attracted to other men and apparently can't control yourself. You mentioned that your husband still brings up the cheating. He is clearly still upset about it. What on earth makes you think he would be cool with an open relationship? Whether or not you ask for an open marriage, you need to tell your husband of your infidelity. Even if he okays an open marriage, that does not okay your cheating. You're still being deceptive, and he deserves better than that. Redditor 8, I've floated the idea of an open marriage to him in the past and he wasn't really receptive. You're just trying to create a loophole to validate your cheating. You need to tell him what you've done and let him make his own decisions on how he wants to proceed. Our kids don't need to be shuttled around with 2 homes, 2 step-parents, and go through a divorce. That isn't fair to them. Don't use your kids as an excuse. Your lies and cheating is what has created an unstable home for them. Redditor 9, what are you going to do if he says no? Redditor 10, my so pressured me into an open relationship because he needed it. It scarred me a lot and we very nearly broke up after the dust settled. Then he went to therapy to get to the root of his desire to hook up with other people, and we are better now. Maybe you should try that before you wreck your husband's self-esteem. This is your issue, not his. Redditor 11, get a ducking vibrator. Redditor 12, what makes you think that your husband wants an open marriage? When you talk to him about it, do you plan to bring up the cheating? Op answer, he must be lonely too and we think alike. I really do think he would be open and comfortable if he could get past his ingrained conservativeness. There is such a stigma against being open in our society. I'm probably not going to bring up the cheating when we first have the conversation. Maybe later depending on how it goes. Redditor 13, either way you cut the cake, you can't force your husband to be in an open relationship. You're sure that your husband is attracted to other women, but I call bullshit. A, because you can't know how someone feels unless they openly admit it, and B, you can find someone attractive without pursuing any kind of relationship with them. Either way, the only way to find out is to ask him about it, and not act like it's already been decided on until you do talk to him. Consider what you'd do if your husband doesn't want to be in an open marriage, honestly. I think that's what's most likely to happen. Redditor 14, you honestly sound like you're in denial. Please, just accept the fact that you're trying to have your cake and eat it. Your husband is more likely going to be heartbroken and, for both your sakes, will put his foot down and divorce you. There's nothing wrong with realizing you're not a one-man woman, but you really should know these things before you get married and have children. And even if you did, a proper open marriage would be discussed before you engaged with other men. What I often see in these "my so just cheated on me" is that the so will often push for open relationships while they are already cheating. They usually do it in a way to save face from their lack of self-control. Don't convince your husband, because wanting an open marriage is just a symptom of your lack of self-control. You are hurting your husband and you're not suited to be a faithful wife. That's all there really is to it. Redditor 15, call me crazy, but it seems to me like the best solution is to go back in time, not duck someone else, and instead broach the subject with your husband. Redditor 16, you don't convince him, you already had a conversation about it and he wasn't receptive. You find a person who wants what you want and you don't force it on someone who doesn't. I have had 10 plus years of open relationship experience and giving you this advice. Redditor 17, I can't believe this is a serious thread, honestly. There's no way it can be, but I'll pretend that it is. You need to stop with the Beale shit, for starters. You probably did some extreme Google-fu one night looking for a way out of your shitty situation that I might add, you caused, and found the holy grail that is an open relationship. Except you're not mature enough for that, nor do you realize what it entails. It takes two people communicating honestly and clearly about their encounters, and working together to deal with the plethora of jealousy issues that pop up. My advice to you would be to grow a pair and tell him what you did, again, or straight up divorce him. He deserves someone who's honest and trustworthy, PS not you, and actually considers his feelings, not someone who seems to magically know everything he wants when you haven't even ducking consulted him about it. Oh, and stop pretending you have some deep, loving relationship. You talk about all of the love you share, but rest assured he'll hate you to the core once he learns you've cheated again, potentially with multiple people. Redditor 18, what about possible STIs, your own and your unsuspecting husband's? Unplanned pregnancy? Workplace complications from having an affair with a married co-worker, or is he your boss? It's unclear from the way you describe the VP. You are coming into this conversation from a position of weakness since you have already lied to your husband, cheated on him and forced him into a corner, especially since he has not been willing to have an open marriage in the past. Clearly you want what you want and are willing to risk everything you purportedly hold dear to get it. I agree that monogamy is not essential to a good relationship as long as all parties are on board and take precautions, but honesty is essential. You've missed the boat on that one. Op answer, he is a co-worker, not quite my boss, but he is a superior position to me. I have an IUD and I would want my husband to take precautions with other women. It's 2012, you can prevent pregnancy in so many ways. I wish we would have had this conversation earlier too. I just didn't realize it until things started up with the new guy. It was totally my mistake not to bring it up before. Redditor 19, best start on the divorce now. Cheating on your husband and later asking for an open marriage is just you asking for permission to do what you did. More importantly, it is you asking permission for what you are going to do. You will to have time with other men, regardless of this particular outcome. Long-term monogamy is a large, difficult, and all too often unrealistic undertaking, I agree. However, that thought would have helped before your marriage and subsequent infidelity, not after. You need to accept that your marriage is in decline. If he refuses this idea of yours, then you'll just have to go behind his back to get what you need. If he caves and gives in to the notion, then congrats, because you now have something to hold against him and absolve yourself of all responsibility. Neither of these make for a working marriage or family. Kids are easily one of the worst excuses to sustain a failing marriage. Children aren't typically smart enough to understand all the nuances of what's happening between their parents, but they are smart enough to perceive what's happening and know that it is bad for both their parents and their family as a whole. Children are not stupid. With their parents trapped within a resentful marriage, they will be able to see that their family is coming to an end. However, you can prevent this. You can prevent this by being open and clear with the fact that you and your husband can no longer be together. The prevention of trying to cover up a festering wound is more than worth the cost of acknowledging that the wound is there. Separate amicably and your children will see that relationships change, stay together wrongfully, and they will see that the ideals of family, love, and trusting relationships are meaningless lies to be told to children that don't know any better. Redditor 20, it is only the best solution for you because you lack any self-control. You're a selfish pile of shit, plain and simple. Story 22, married for 8 years, new baby on the way but discovered cheating 5 years ago. Throwaway account while I assess my options as I'm not sure what to do here. My 29M wife 28F and I have been married for 8 years, during which I've always had a full-time job and she's been a student. We have a 6-year-old child already and just a couple of weeks ago successfully got pregnant with our second child, which we've told our families about but not our friends. We are generally happy together. We've obviously had ups and downs like anyone, but now we do love each other. First part of the very long story: a few years ago my wife was out with some friends and unexpectedly didn't come home while I was babysitting our infant. Her story at the time was that she had stayed at a friend's house, and I had no reason to doubt this because the friend in question had also been my friend since we were very young kids, so I kind of thought if anything had gone down then I'd know. At this time she had just about gotten over a bad bout of postnatal depression, which I supported her through as best I could, and I was overjoyed she was seeing her friends and had a hobby. I did ask her what had gone on and she said they'd just gone for more drinks, and I trusted her, so that was fine. A few months later she gave up on the boxing, but again nothing really seemed that unusual. I didn't think about it again for years. Fast forward to a couple of weeks ago, I heard a comment from someone who only vaguely knows me saying that he has no idea what his wife is up to, and then later referring to her as a serial adulteress. My wife was with me at the time and we both agreed it was bizarre because it seemed that way. This wasn't the only time I'd heard something along those lines, but I trusted her. The difference was that this was the most concrete statement I'd ever heard on it, and to me clearly merited discussion with her. After this chat with my wife I thought I was fine, but my mind started to work overtime and I realized there have been a few incidents in years since the boxing night where she's not come home, which started to niggle at me. I have always asked questions the day after, but explanations have always seemed reasonable and usually backed up by friends. Also, I believe that I should take her word, and if I can't trust her then we probably shouldn't be together, so I've never asked to see her messages or anything like that. I'm in no way the jealous type, so even though I knew she was messages various people all the time, it really didn't bother me. For the last few weeks, my wife has been using my work phone for her Facebook and Messenger accounts. Today I logged into what I thought was my own Messenger account and realized straight away it wasn't, and was about to log off until I saw some weird unread messages from friends who were there on that boxing night that made me stop. I've never been interested in her messages before and I know I shouldn't have done it, but the overheard comments had got in my head, and after a couple of weeks of mulling it over I honestly felt like her friends around me knew something I didn't. I looked back and found 5-year-old messages between her and a guy from that night in question, and also messages from this guy's wife who has since divorced him, which confirmed something had happened between them, which she said was a mistake, but she liked him. They obviously liked each other, but their circumstances with their children wouldn't allow them to carry on. She told him he was a good guy and that she was sorry. Obviously this was a huge punch to the gut, and I felt devastated, as if I'd been an idiot to trust her all these years. I also felt a responsibility to look at myself and wonder what I'd done that drove her to that at the time. Since calming down I feel pretty terrible for having looked at her messages, and like I've also broken her trust now. She knows any sort of cheating is a deal breaker for me, and if it wasn't for our new baby being on the way I would be happy to confront her about it, and my feeling is that would probably end in separation. If I'd known about this in 2015 I would have certainly left her at the time and been able to single parent our one child. My dilemma now is that we are in the early stages of a second child on the way, and I feel it would be wrong to leave her at this stage when she and my kid need my support, as it's not either of the children's fault, and I know the older child would be absolutely devastated if I did this. This incident I have proof of happened more than 5 years ago now, and she's lied to me about it that whole time, which is what gets me the most. I now feel like there's probably been other incidents, and I don't know if I can get back to the level of trust I had, or even if I was right to give her the benefit of any doubt. I couldn't the kind of partner who demands to check her phone and things like that, because I feel like that's pretty toxic behavior, and I feel bad enough for checking up this time even though I turned out to be right. I worry confronting her about it might just make her better at hiding it now should we stay together, and I feel like I've probably been in denial of a number of red flags over the years. I haven't spoken to her yet, but I can't let this go and I don't intend to. I also messaged the guy's ex-wife to ask her if she could fill in any details for me, which I'm not sure was the correct call because I shouldn't be dredging up something she probably doesn't want to talk about either, but it was my knee-jerk reaction. Now I'm not sure if I even want to know what went on any more than I already do. I'm pretty lost and I really don't know if I can regain the trust, and I feel like I've wasted 5 years of my life supporting a woman who now I don't think ever cared much for me. I want to take a few days before I confront her to see how my feelings develop. If I'd found out the pregnancy, there's no question I'd leave her and be done with it. To me, almost 10 years of trust have effectively broken down. I think I need to be honest when I confront her and own up to what I've done with the messages also, which I accept as part of the trust problem. My gut feeling now is telling me I need to be here for my new child when it comes, and I feel like if we split I'll be cut out of a lot of that, which isn't fair because I'm not the one who's caused this and I really don't know what to do or how to approach it. I really feel like if I make the wrong call here I will mess up mine and both my children's lives. Question for the sub: where do I go from here? TLDR, wife is pregnant with new baby, discovered by reading her messages that she cheated on me 5 years ago and don't know what to do. Redditors' reactions. Redditor 1, I very much doubt it was only once and only with one guy. If you want to salvage anything, you need couples therapy. Her never coming clean about it is a strong sign there is nothing to salvage. Op answer, my priority is undoubtedly the kids at this stage. I don't feel it's fair on them, which is probably the only thing I'd consider any sort of therapy, how we manage our relationship best for the kids. The relationship between me and my wife is secondary, and I doubt I can trust her again at this stage, although it is very raw, hence taking a few days and writing a massive post on Reddit. Redditor 2, you say that you aren't saying anything because of the kids. I think you should know that a kid growing up with two happy parents who are together is best for the kids. Next best is two happy parents who aren't together. Way lower on the scale of what is best for kids is two unhappy parents who are still together. Redditor follow-up, happy parents is the only good solution. My mother was miserable in her marriage and did not leave because of wanting to stick around for the kids. It is a huge loss at the age of 24 to not have a mother anymore because she focused on us rather than her own happiness. And she not being happy would easily get emotional due to the smallest thing we did. We did not learn much discipline when she withdrew instead of correcting us. Redditor 3, first of all, someone out there calls her a serial adulteress. They said is up to, not was up to. Sounds like they think they know more than you. Second, she thinks she got away with her infidelities. How likely is it that she is emboldened by the belief she did not get caught? These are reasons you need to get full disclosure. Question her with the implication that you already know dates and names, you just want her to admit it. Otherwise you will just get minimalization and trickle truth. Op answer, yeah, seems stupid now, but that's what made me click on to what's been multiple red flags over a few years. I didn't mention in the post, but the person who made those comments I think was just scattergunning comments hoping something hit, as he barely knows me and certainly doesn't know my wife. It's more than likely B was just trying to get under my skin, which he did successfully, although he's inadvertently done me a favor. I don't want to lie to her about any of it, and TBH my mind is more or less made up that the conclusion of this will be we are no longer together, but as you say it would be nice to get the truth even if it is horrible. Redditor 4, this sucks, and I am sorry to hear this. To be straight to the point, get a paternity test on all kids involved. Op answer, the older one is literally my double, so I've not got any doubts there. Also, if it turned out I wasn't biologically related to the child I've raised for almost 7 years, that would be irrelevant to me at this point, as I love them and would still feel like their dad. Op comment, update, I've heard back from the other guy's ex from the time. She says that she came home that night and there was a group of people in the house, and she later discovered the same messages on his phone, but is 100% certain nothing physical ever happened with that particular guy on that particular night. She also ditched him for cheating on her with someone else later on, so she's no reason to cover up or to lie, but TBH, that doesn't mean she isn't wrong about what happened. We don't know each other and she doesn't wish for the past to be brought up again, so I've thanked her for the help she has given and I won't contact her again out of respect. Clearly I am going to confront my wife about it for those asking. I have to and never intended not to. I felt it was important to calm down first and to make sure I had all the facts I can still get from something that went on 5 years ago. Regardless of the ex's explanation, my wife clearly still has questions to answer. I think the question left for me is how exactly to approach the conversation. A lot of people have mentioned DNA testing. Child number 1 is mine beyond any doubt, and I'm not really looking to be told I'm an idiot for it considering any other possibilities there. For the second baby, abortion isn't an option I'm considering. She's only 6 weeks pregnant, so it's very early stages, and we haven't spent a night or any significant amount of time apart since lockdown began, so the timelines simply don't match up. We were also actively trying for this baby, which obviously I would have not done had I known, but it's a bit late for that now. For the most part, the last 5 years we've had what I thought was a great relationship, or I obviously wouldn't have wanted to bring another child into it. Redditor follow-up. Unpopular opinion, but the new kid is going to grow up in a broken family. It takes years to reconcile, so unless you can solve this within 9 months, the kid is going to grow up with parents that distrust each other and has a deep-seated hate towards one another. I think it's best to make a swift decision after the confrontation. I myself would abort because 5 years of lies is a lot. Good luck, my dude, and hope to hear good news from you soon. Redditor 6. It's too late, the bomb had exploded. You can't de-explode it. 1. Things will never be the same. She never really loved you and respected you the same way you respected her. Redditor 7. So you're going to stick around and subject not 1, but 2 innocent children to the toxic dumpster fire that is your marriage? Your wife didn't just cheat on you, and if cheating is a deal breaker for you, then it always is regardless of circumstances. So if you stay, then it isn't actually a deal breaker for you. She has lied directly to your face for 5 ducking years and is still lying to you. And that is only the cheating you found evidence of. It is extremely unlikely it was the only cheating that happened. How many times do you think she came home and gave you some other guy's sloppy seconds? Back to your kids. Children learn what relationships should look and feel like from watching their parents. If you stay, they will think cheating is something they should accept from their future partners. If you would want your children to leave a relationship in which they had been cheated on and lied to, then you need to show them it is perfectly okay to do that. Lead by example. File for divorce and 50-50 custody of both children after getting a paternity test on the one in the oven. Redditor 8. This is terrible, man. I feel for you. I can tell you're a good man and father because your instincts are not to abandon her right now because of the situation. That's very admirable, and your head is in the right place. Unfortunately, it sounds like this wasn't an isolated incident. I would confront her about it and tell her she needs to come clean about everything if she even wants to begin to salvage the relationship. Regardless, I know you will continue to be a great father, single or not. Keep your head up, my man. Thumbs up. Redditor follow up. I agree, but at the same time, if OP has already decided it's over, does it matter? I mean, on the one hand I would demand to see her phone and email, but on the other hand, would I really want to know? Redditor 9. Get evidence before it's deleted. Those FB messages need to be preserved electronically where she can't get to them. Redditor 10. I'd recommend a divorce. Coming from a child of divorce, I am a lot happier with my parents separated. I can acknowledge that if they'd have stayed together for me, I would be full of guilt and my home situation would not be nearly as good as it is today. Redditor 11. Get a DNA test now. My sister isn't even related to me fully because of the same damn issue, so please. Redditor 12. Your marriage is over. Co-parenting is the only solution. My dad had an online affair when I was about 9 or 10. My mom stayed for me and my siblings. And she shouldn't have. I saw how miserable my mom was and I hated it so much. I felt like it was my fault she was unhappy because she stayed for us. My dad was so dependent on my mom he couldn't function when they finally got a divorce. I and NY sibling don't even talk to him now. My point is, if you stay for your children or wait until they're older, it's going to get worse. The longer you put it off, the harder it'll be for everyone. You'll become numb and it'll be harder for you to know how much this is really hurting you. Staying will hurt everyone. If you can't forgive her, then leave. Redditor 13. Response to all of your comments so far. You are very reluctant to snoop even with justification probable cause and don't want to talk to anyone else about this to get an accurate assessment of the situation. You don't want an accurate assessment because you are fixed on what you want. You want everything to go back to normal and her to say it will never happen again. What you are doing is the most common response to cheating, and you need to read up a lot more to see if it is a good idea to bury your head in the sand like this. Have you read up on reasons for cheating? This will very quickly get you over the what did I do wrong and am I good enough and often please pick me over AP mindset. Often it's just novelty they want. It's like having to only eat your favorite food for the rest of your life, so it's no slight at all against the BS. The WS is simply not loyal. The AP can often be very, very average. Have you read up on how to respond to cheating? When confronted, cheaters almost always just gaslight, trickle truth and cheat again. Sorry. Have you read up interrogation? You need to know how to question people and spot deception. Especially watch out for delays to their responses and vagueness. Have you read up on abuse and borderline personality disorder? You at least need to know about gaslighting. Also from your writing is see huge reluctance for you to be assertive. This is an indicator you have been or being abused. You need to be much more informed before you go into this. Answer: I found this comment really interesting and informative. I would offer some clarifications though. I was very reluctant to snoop, but I don't regret it. I'd say that's more down to my thinking that I'd be really angry if someone went through my messages, although that's probably because I don't have anything I'm bothered about anyone else seeing. I now think the snooping was the first step to taking my head out the sand, to borrow your analogy. I don't want everything to go back to normal. I am coming to realize that what I thought was normal probably wasn't actually normal, so if anything I want the outcome of this to be that my normal improves, but that doesn't necessarily mean staying in this relationship. In terms of being reluctant to talk to her about it, I am reluctant, which you've rightly identified. This is partly down to natural anxiety over the outcome and partly down to wanting more time to gather information and make sure if she lies time about I'll know and I can walk away. You'll have read that I messaged the guy involved's ex-wife for information, and I think there are probably a couple of other people I need to speak to as well. However, I want to be careful about this, as I'd prefer my wife not to have an idea that this confrontation is coming, so I don't want anything getting back to her from people who I now know can't be trusted. If anything did get back to her prior to a confrontation, then it gives her time to create a story which will only cloud the situation further. I was surprised you were able to identify the gaslighting and abuse, as it's occurred to me recently that probably happened to me when I saw it happening to someone I know. The situation had improved by the time it occurred to me, so I didn't think it was worth action, although I'm aware that's a typical victim's response, and a lot of the other comments on this thread are making me realize I've not been looking out for myself, and I've probably been a bit blinded by a duty to my kid's. The BPD comment was really close to home, as well as I recently looked that up, but I think a lot of these symptoms are similar to PPD symptoms, and the fact that she's not still acting the way she was makes me think it's PPD rather than BPD. I have read up on all the topics you've mentioned over the last couple of days, but I don't know if I would say I found that useful or not. The information online is hugely conflicting, and to me at least this is a pretty unique situation, which is why I chose to post anonymously on Reddit, partly for advice like this, but mostly because I wanted to pull in as many viewpoints as I could. My initial reaction was certainly to look myself, but now with the benefit of calming down and taking a step back, I am getting more clarity that I haven't done anything wrong here, and that I can't let the outcome of this be that I've somehow caused this. Redditor 14, don't be a doormat. The best thing for that child is to have two loving parents that don't screw other PPL. Apparently your wife couldn't oblige. How could you ever trust this woman? What happens when she goes out with friends again? Kids are perceptive and pick up on things you wouldn't think, but they do. Simple as this: tell her you know she cheated 5 years ago without giving away how you know, and that you don't think you can move past it and you're considering divorce. Doesn't matter, tell her you know and nothing else, and the truth will come. Also, bro, you have to do what's best for yourself so you can do what's best for that kid in the future. Hard to take care of a child when you're unhappy and live in a broken home. Redditor 15, bro. Do a DNA test for the kid. You deserve respect. If you don't do anything, this will continue. You do not deserve this. You are a great person. Do not fall in the trap that will make you miserable. Redditor 16, never stay in a marriage simply for the kids, the environment that puts them in sometimes causes more harm than good. Constant bickering, fighting, and yelling at each other are a few examples or what exes do. Redditor 17, facepalm dude. You handled it weak then, you're handling it weak now. And you're guided by a weak mindset. Redditor 18, dude finds his wife is cheating. Feels bad about snooping. I guess she found the man of her dreams. Redditor 19, the trust is gone, so it's just a matter of time for this relationship to be over. It's your choice, but I doubt it's a good idea bringing up kids in a toxic and resentful marriage. Redditor 20, my friend, it might not even be your baby. If you want to suffer and deal with the humiliation and disrespect a cheating spouse brings, go for it. But, you'll be miserable, your relationship will suck. P.S. It already does, and you know what? It'll be a shitty environment for a kid to grow up in. They'll learn a ducked-up relationship is normal, then they might end up in the same situation as you. Get out. Build a relationship you can be proud of and build a happy, healthy place for your kids to live.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.